The ego is the system that runs your sense of self. It is made out of thought patterns, emotions, and behavioral loops, and the stories that try to hold it all together. Left unchecked, it creates endless existential searching, chronic disconnection, and the persistent sense that something is wrong. The goal of my videos is clarity, to see your identity and its contradictions for what they are, named precisely, to finally understand what it is that we're all running away from. If you think you know what is going on, then think again. Nobody knows what is going on. And I want you to play with me here for a moment. And I want you to follow a certain thought experiment and to really tap into how strange existence really is. Imagine that you have never been born and you are now in this weird void space, pure nothingness, limbo, whatever you want to call it. And then I want you to come up with reality. Like, try to imagine time and space before it even exists. And if you truly bring yourself in this right headspace, then you notice how unfathomable it is to come up with such a thing. And now come up with the fact that human biology came to be through millions of years of evolution of tiny bacteria that evolved in order to reproduce, and how it does so on this micro scale with DNA that is constantly rebuilding your own biology and regenerating anything that gets broken, communicated through a network of DNA that has so much memory of thousands and thousands of generations. And then it produces the correct organisms to keep you alive. And then even this idea of needing to have sex in order to create babies and to procreate in this weird biological system that also has like a brain and a mind with its own internal reality perception and simulation. And now think about technology. Like, there's no part whatsoever that you could have come up with. Like, there's magic wherever you look. And this is where the theist wants to make the Watchmaker argument, right? Like, it wants to argue, or he wants to argue, that if reality is so complex and so full of incredible self-organizing principles, then there must be something or someone that created this, which then is the idea of God. And the counter to this argument is very obvious, and it's the fact that, well, who created God then? If you have a being that is capable of creating so much magic, then who created that being who is capable of that magic? And you quickly enter into this recursive loop where there is nobody to be found. And this is actually the key. There is nobody who has done this. Nobody came up with this. Nobody created this. And this is where this feeling of awe and magic comes from, because it's like empty space and then reality on top of it, all self-created, self-authored, self-experienced, and self-understood. And then divided into singular formal selves, like you and me, that then recognize themselves and the magic surrounding them all. So this no-self nature of all creation is what gives people a lot of existential anxiety, because there's the feeling that there's nobody there to protect them, nobody there to care for them, and nobody there to understand them. And the religions try to bridge that gap by telling you that it's all personal, like it's all done for you. But if all that exists is are these like self-organizing principles, and they all organize around a sense of self, then it is pretty much the same, like saying that nothing created the universe and it all just exists out of this raw emptiness. Then this is actually the same as recognizing that you are this self-organizing principle made out of billions and billions of parts that now has organized around yourself. And you are now the thing that it has been created for, which is very, very, very incredible. It is the tenet of deep awakening that feels so awe-inspiring, because you can see both layers depending on where you're coming from or where you are in this stage. There's this one layer of, oh wow, there's no ground to reality whatsoever. There's just utter emptiness and strangeness on top of it, and nobody is in control. Like everything is perfectly out of control. And then there's this other layer that says, wait, everything has been done for me, by me, and there only is myself perceiving all that I have done. How the hell did I come up with any of it? There's this terror of our own capacity when we look at all the pain and suffering that we have created within the self-organizing principle. And then as humans, we want to externalize this responsibility and put this responsibility on some god that has put us in this negative situation. Or if you're very religious, you might also say it was a demon that has done this. And notice that the mechanism of giving responsibility onto something is the mechanism of splitting. And in a way, everything is made out of dualities, right? Like that everything is kind of split from nothingness, from God, from existence itself into all these different parts that now gave us the ability to experience all these different forms of magic. And I'm going to refer to existence and reality as magic in the context of this video, because like we established, we will never find the root of creation except pure nothingness, pure emptiness, or just self-organizing principles with no clear author. But then the end result does feel like this is pure magic, because nobody could have ever come up with it. And at the same time, reality is the thing that has come up with all of this stuff. And you're witnessing it. And the fear that comes with recognizing the empty boundlessness of it, and like the strangeness where it feels like nobody is holding you because everything is so like born out of this emptiness, is one side out of the coin of existential realization, but also freedom. And on the other side, it's the wow, everything is so full of me. Everything is so made precisely for me. And I'm made out of everything that has made existence up. And then from there, every single moment of your life is absolute perfection and a gift from God, from nothingness, from the universe to yourself. And there's no atom that is in the wrong place. And this is the ultimate gift, which is the ultimate gift of existence. The splitting that causes the divisions between things then get also used to cause the split between you and reality, or you and God, if you want to say. And then the split can be, I am just a human. I am the way in which God can create a stone that he cannot lift himself, because I am a human, and as a human, I cannot lift certain rocks because they're too heavy for me. And therefore I create limitation within this endless infinite space, so that I can have a viewpoint from which to experience all this magic. Now, this individual viewpoint is magic itself. Then what you're observing is incredible magic, and then the combination of what observes what creates the uniqueness of reality. And this is then true from each viewpoint. And this is really where you start to fathom the unfathomability of it all, because whatever movie you can watch, like an actual movie, every person is going to look at it very differently, right? Because it's depending on them. So you have the creation of the movie, you have the person perceiving the movie, and then the interaction, and then also depending on the mood that you're at, like depending on what you've eaten at the last day, or what you've been going through in your life in a certain point of time, the movie is also going to have a different effect on you. So you have all these different factors that cause a unique experience. Now think about all of these unique factors between everything that interconnects with each other, like water molecules and fire and gas, and all of the stuff also always, depending on which context, depending on which moment, organize themselves in different ways. And it is so overwhelming, so crazy, that then the duality of the human wants to create a split also within the psyche. And now it's not just I'm separate from infinity because I'm a finite human, but it also separates its own infinity from the present moment here now. And now it's like humans pretend that what they are observing as reality doesn't actually exist, and it is some sort of fabrication of their own mind and some sort of dream world and some sort of artificial consciousness, and it separates us from what is actually happening, like the magic that is actually happening, and brings us into our heads. And in our heads we have the ability to contextualize everything. And now, instead of seeing the magic of this camera, I just see a camera. Instead of looking at fire and wondering, how is fire even a thing? Like, who came up with such a powerful element that, yeah, consumes and expands? It's just danger, or it's just warmth. And then everything also gets filtered through the utility of a thing. And evolutionarily, it makes a lot of sense, because if we were so obsessed over the beauty of it all, right? Like, I have this microphone and I'm just in awe how much detail there is in this microphone, like all of these little fibers and the complexity just in this mathematical structure. Then I might forget that I'm recording a video and get just completely immersed in the moment, which is often what happens when you take psychedelics. Like, the most ordinary objects get stripped of their utility and you see like their rawness, and it's just like, whoa, everything is way stranger than I thought. I didn't understand the extent to which my human filters layer over the perception of reality, and that I never actually see reality for how it is actually like, but always through my own human vantage point and interaction with what reality is like. But this doesn't mean that this is not actually real. It just means it's a certain configuration of reality. It's like saying that, um, water molecules aren't real because they are just oxygen merged with hydrogen. But that's irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter how it's merging. The merging creates something new, something real. And that's true for all human perception. And all you want to do is strip away the ego layers that are hiding you from the beauty that is clearly evident all the time, hiding itself from the magic that is emerging everywhere all the time. I can help you get deeper access to this magic through a one-on-one combo in my ego architecture audit that you can find in the link in the description. The magic that you can find absolutely everywhere is something that we intuitively understand when we were children, where everything is a matter of exploration and understanding. And then stuff that seems very dull and boring for adults is full of awe and beauty as a child. And on one layer, you have like the fact that when you're a child, you observe things for the first time, and the human didn't put it in boxes already, and that's why everything is still like new and fresh. And then over time, we get used to certain things, we gain deeper understanding of things, and then at some point it gets like filed away. You just understand this is a chair, you sit on a chair, and the rest is kind of irrelevant. If you are interested in furniture for some weird reason, and then you study the architecture of a chair, then maybe you gain new special abilities in the ways you can view a chair. But usually people kind of find their own interests, their own niches, and then get very specific about that. And the more you can foster this, the more you get a skill, and then you find something useful in society or in your life, or something you enjoy doing. And it's really about the specificity you can gain with the knowledge of a thing. Because, just in producing the right microphone is hundreds and hundreds of years of work and study to know how to do it well. And that's also the complexity of the human mind, right? That it can understand things to such depth. And in this depth, you also get kind of the illusion of understanding that happens when you grow older, where you put things into certain boxes, not just out of kind of ignorance, but you truly start to know how things work to a useful degree, and then you lose the curiosity because what you've learned just works. Oftentimes, the biggest innovations in history comes from people who enter an old field, like, for example, you are a professional microphone designer, and then you, for whatever reason, enter the field of professional furniture construction, and then you have this innovative idea that completely revolutionizes something. And it's because you are now mixing two very precise fields of knowledge, and you can also see where one field got something completely wrong, because now you're not seeing it from the ground up. Like you're not kind of indoctrinated in the dogma of the knowledge field, but you can see everything with fresh eyes again because you're coming from a different field. And this is often how you innovate. In your personal life, what this means is that it is very useful to look at things from a new lens when you can find it. When you have approached your daily routine through a certain lens and then suddenly get a new one, might also be like just a spiritual or philosophical way to look at the world. Like, okay, now I've kind of integrated the idea that everything is magic, and now I'm looking at an ordinary object like the mirror, and I'm just having the question, okay, how do mirrors actually work? And then you look it up and see how light reflection works, and then you can find, on one hand, maybe this is useful, maybe I can come up with something that is actually cool and useful for me, or you simply find love again for the simplest things, because all of the complexity boils down to a very simplistic notion of what something actually is. Because the isness of a thing, like light, has complexity and depth when you look into it, right? If you want to understand it in its width. But in the immediacy of a moment, it's actually quite simple. Like, you know what light is when it hits your eye, and that's that. And a lot of what people are struggling to do is to understand that things have width and depth, but in its immediacy, everything is very simple. And all what spiritual awakening actually boils down to is coming back to the simplicity. And that's why it's always said that you want to focus on what is happening now and who you are right now, and not lose yourself in all of these abstractions. Because even though everything might seem extremely magical and unknowable and nobody really knows what's going on, once you remove all of these layers that I've just talked about in this video, and you decomplexify everything and move outside of the frameworks of language that I've been using and actually engage with what is in front of you without thinking, then everything starts to shine quite simply. And the mystery of the magic stops being a mystery altogether, and everything feels deeply known.